On the last video, we covered Sparta's rise to power. Today, we'll cover Sparta's downfall. We left off at the end of the Peloponnesian Wars, where Sparta and the Peloponnesian League defeated Athens and its Delian League. This is as high as the Spartans would go on the world stage of politics and warfare. From this point forward, a string of bad decisions and civil unrest would undermine Sparta, rapidly declining its power and significance. Right after the Peloponnesian Wars, the Achaemenid Empire was having a succession war. Cyrus the Younger led a rebellion against his brother Artaxerxes II in 404 BC. Sparta backed Cyrus the Younger, and many Spartan veterans of the Peloponnesian Wars joined Cyrus under the 10,000, an army fully made out of Greek mercenaries that backed Cyrus and his bid for the Achaemenid throne. You can watch more on the 10,000 by clicking on the flag on the top right of the screen. In 401 BC, at the Battle of Cunaxa, Cyrus was killed despite winning the battle, leaving Artaxerxes II on the Persian throne and pitting the Persians against the Spartans once again. In 397 BC, Boeotia, a region between Athens and Corinth led by the city-state of Thebes, engaged in a war against an ally of Sparta, and war broke out. The current kings of Sparta at the time, Lysander and Pausanias, failed to defeat the Boeotian League, and while Lysander died on the battlefield, Pausanias was exiled due to the failure in avenging Lysander's death. In 394 BC, Sparta recalled an expeditionary force from Asia Minor that was promptly defeated at the Battle of Cnidus. The Spartan fleet was destroyed by a Persian-backed Athenian fleet on this battle, and soon the Spartan coastline was getting harassed. The new king of Sparta, Agesilaus II, managed to score a victory against the Boeotians and was able to maintain the Spartan position as hegemon, but needing to rid Sparta of Persian hostility and fearing a new Helot revolt, he surrendered to the Persian king Artaxerxes II in 387 BC, in what is known as the Peace of Untalcidas. This treaty stipulated for the autonomy of all Greek cities, and the Boeotian League was broken up. Later, in 383 BC, Sparta also broke up the Chalcidian League, enrolling some of the cities into the Peloponnesian League. This fragilized the northern Greek cities and opened them for the Macedonian intervention that would come in the future. In 382 BC, Sparta led an army north and took Cadmea, the citadel of Thebes. The government at Thebes was overthrown and the pro-Spartan clique was placed in power. This was a clear breach of the Peace of Untalcidas. Thebes revolted and the Boeotian War started in 378 BC. Sparta went on the offensive against Pyrrhus, held by Athens, but this failed and Athens joined the Theban side in the revolt. Spartan forces were then defeated at sea and land at the battles of Naxos and Tegida respectively, and in 371 BC they were defeated again at the famous Battle of Leuctra, effectively ending Spartan supremacy with the Peace of Callias. The Battle of Leuctra is often seen as the beginning of the end of Sparta or the confirmation of its downfall. Thebes then sent an army to the Peloponnese in 370 BC, but the Spartans refused to give battle since the Theban army was now superior. The Thebans, instead of marching on Sparta, set up the city of Megalopolis and refounded the city of Messene, an old enemy of Sparta. With this move, they intended to keep Spartan power in check. The Boeotian League was also re-established, as well as a second Athenian League. As Theban power rose and its hegemony was being established, Sparta and several of Boeotia's former allies, such as Elis or even Athens, banded together to overthrow the Theban hegemony. The resulting showdown was in 362 BC at the Battle of Mantinea, and the Spartan side lost. All city-states agreed to peace except for Sparta, since the terms of the peace would make Messenia independent. The decline of Sparta became apparent with the defeat at Leuctra, and after Mantinea there was no denying it. But besides military and political issues, another problem loomed in the horizon. Sparta had a citizenry problem, and its population has been on the decline, and it would keep declining for decades to come. Sparta could no longer afford nor men nor money to recover its former glory and position as hegemon. With Messenia and Arcadia as independent states hostile to Sparta, the Spartans could no longer play a big role on any future Greek affairs. In 353 BC, Sparta sent men to prevent Philip II of Macedon passing Thermopylae and getting into Phocis. But beyond this, pinned by its Macedonian allied neighbors, Messenia and Arcadia, Sparta played little to no role in the conflict. In the same year, after the Battle of Chaeronea, where Philip II of Macedon beat a joint Athenian and Theban army, the Macedonians entered the Peloponnese in the hopes of creating a Corinthian league. Their hopes materialized, however, Sparta refused to join this league. Philip left Sparta untouched, but in 333 BC, while Alexander the Great was out in the east conquering the known world, Spartan king Agis III sent a force to conquer Crete and led a second one to conquer the Arcadian city of Megalopolis in 331 BC. Despite early success, the Macedonians sent Antipater to relieve Megalopolis, and in a pitched battle the Macedonians won. This defeat was such that the Spartans were forced to join the Corinthian League, and 9 years later, in the Lamian or Hellenic War, essentially a revolt against Macedonian rule following Alexander's death, the Spartans, against all odds, remained neutral. The 3rd century BC saw more hardships for the Spartans. In 294 BC, they were defeated by the Macedonians, who nearly took the city of Sparta. In 272 BC, Epirus under Pyrrhus invaded the Peloponnese, besieging Sparta. He was ultimately unsuccessful and repelled by the Spartans, who threw everything they had at Pyrrhus. It is said that the women fought side by side with the men to protect their city. In 244 BC, Laconia, Sparta's home province, was raided by the Aetolians, who took large numbers of captives, further exacerbating the population issues. During this century, Sparta saw its number of equals or military-aged male citizens fall to about 700. In 229 BC, Cleomenes III of Sparta launched an invasion of Arcadia, successfully taking Megalopolis, Sparta's first military success in a long while. Then he staged a successful coup, becoming the sole king of Sparta. He immediately enacted reforms to try and re-establish Sparta's former glory that were initially successful, as he managed to conquer some nearby cities with the backing of Ptolemaic Egypt. But soon, Achaia allied with Macedon to face Cleomenes, and Egypt pulled its financial support. Cleomenes was eventually defeated in 222 BC, and the Macedonian army just walked through the city of Sparta, abolishing the kingship. In 220 BC, Spartan royalists staged another coup, regaining control of Sparta and entering the social war of 220 BC to 217 BC, alongside the Aetolian League against Macedon and the Hellenic League. This war didn't result in any major changes and was fairly uneventful as far as borders and consequences go. In 207 BC, Nabis took power in Sparta, and as a response to the change in loyalties of Achaia to Rome, Nabis switched the Spartan allegiance towards Macedon. Philip V of Macedon rewarded the Spartans for their change of heart and handed Argos to Sparta. The Macedonian wars between Rome and Macedon were in full swing, and the Romans, suspicious of this development, sent an army to lay siege on Sparta. Nabis capitulated and was forced to cede his seaports and navy to the Romans, and Spartan lands were now reduced to the city of Sparta and its immediate surroundings. In 197 BC, Nabis tried to seize new lands for Sparta, since Rome and Achaia were now distracted with the Seleucids and preparing for the imminent invasion of Macedon and Greece by Antiochus III. However, despite early success, the Achaeans were able to defeat the Spartans, and they retreated within the walls of Sparta. Later in that year, in 197 BC, Sparta requested Aetolian aid, and the call was heeded with ill intent. The Aetolians betrayed the Spartans, and Nabis was assassinated. The Aetolians tried to take control of the city, but the citizenry didn't allow it to happen. In the struggle, the Achaeans took the initiative and sent their own large army to seize Sparta, ending Sparta's independence and forcing them to join the Achaean League. In 146 BC, the Achaean League was defeated by Rome under the general Lucius Mummius, but Sparta, though it was a part of the league, didn't fight in the war. Thus, the Romans were lenient on Sparta, allowing it to be semi-independent. After this point, Sparta was essentially no more but a shell of its former self. It became a tourist attraction of the ancient world, living primarily off tourism. Some of Lycurgus's reforms were reinstated, like the agoge, but possibly under a different format. People from all over the Roman Empire flocked to Sparta to see these institutions in action and be inspired by the Spartan discipline and strength. Most people would consider Leuctra as the event that led Sparta in a downward spiral. But after reading about the Spartans, I would consider the backing of Cyrus the Younger in the Persian Civil War the decision that led to the downfall of Sparta. The Athenians were only able to defeat Sparta at sea due to the Persian funds, and many Greek cities hostile to Sparta were getting Persian aid as well. It is true that during the Spartan hegemony from 404 to 371 BC, the Spartans were able to keep their status, fame, and importance, but they had been defeated before Leuctra. For example, at the Battle of Cnidus in 394 BC, it was no secret that the Spartans could be defeated by then, especially with a weak navy after Cnidus. Of course, that one single factor doesn't lead to the collapse of a nation. Sparta also played their politics poorly, installing pro-Spartan rulers in other city-states and mismanaging the situation into the Boeotian revolt. Constant warfare also took a toll on Spartan numbers. Politics, bad decisions, and demographics dictated the path Sparta would take after the Peloponnesian Wars. The Battle of Leuctra is just the exact moment where the power shifts from Sparta to Thebes, and the brilliant move to set up the cities of Megalopolis and Messene sealed the Spartans in Laconia, turning them into a minor city-state and able to challenge the new hegemons of Thebes. Hope you enjoyed this mini-series on the rise and fall of Sparta. If you did, make sure to subscribe for future history videos. Do like this video, it helps a ton. I've been Wolf, stay wonderful, and I'll see you all on the next one.